Bonfires, essentially the Kleenex of rest points in Souls games. Whether they're called a bonfire or not, ever since Dark Souls, they've just been pretty much referred to as bonfires. At least I always just call them bonfires, pretty much no matter what they are. For this list, I wanted to keep it to things that are strictly Souls-likes, plus Sekiro. I don't personally consider Sekiro Souls-like. That's a whole separate thing, but it is a Fromsoftware game talked about in the same conversations, so that's getting lumped in here. Other than that, I wanted to keep these to things that are very strictly Souls-likes, things that kind of teeter on the edge of being a Souls-like, something like a Black Myth Wukong or Stellar Blade. I didn't want to include those, even though those do have rest points. In the case of Stellar Blade, it also has checkpoints. Black Myth Wukong, you don't lose your souls when you die or whatever, so I feel like the value of the rest point there is just like not exactly the same thing. Also, it's just that game is just not Souls-like. So even though it has a similar styling of its level design and the checkpoint system that it utilizes, I'm just not including it. So, and the reason I wanted to keep this to a relatively narrow scope is because if you keep kind of expanding the definition of like what is a bonfire, if you're not limiting it to just Souls-likes, then arguably Resident Evil safe rooms are bonfires. So I was just like, you can keep kind of like arguing to it continuously expand this list almost infinitely. And so I was like, let's just keep this simple. Let's just stick to things that are strictly Souls-likes plus Sekiro and things that are definitely bonfires. With that being said, we have the Archstones from Demon Souls. We have the Dark Souls 1 bonfires. We have the Dark Souls 2 bonfires. We have the Dark Souls 3 bonfires. We have the Vestiges from Lords of the Fallen 2023. I was going to include the Vestiges from Lords of the Fallen 2014, but I could not find a single photo of it online. I could have pulled up my own stream footage or reinstalled the game and taken my own screenshot, but I just wasn't going to do all that because it wasn't going to rank that high anyway. So then we have the Stargazers from Lies of P. Then we have the Sights of Grace from Elden Ring. We have the Sculptor's Idol from Sekiro. We have the Moon Snail Shell from Another Crab's Treasure. We've got the Medbays from The Surge. I didn't include the Medbase from The Surge 2. They're basically the same things. To file a complaint in the comments. We've got the Headstones of Awakening in Bloodborne, which I always thought were just lamps, but no, they're Headstones of Awakening. Even the lamp, I thought like maybe the headstones in like the graveyard and the Hunter's Dream are Headstones of Awakening, and then the lamps are lamps, but I couldn't find everywhere I looked. Anyway, it just referred to all of them as Headstones of Awakening, regardless. So again, let me know if I'm wrong. And then the Blade Nexuses from Berserker, the first Khazan. Now, there is obviously a bunch of other Souls-likes out there, but I limited this to games that I have personally played. So maybe we'll do an updated list after I play AI Limit and Steel Rising and Mortal Shell and Code Vein and whatever ones else come out, Wu Chang, Fallen Feathers. We'll see. Maybe a year from now we'll do a refresh list if I feel like I have more to draw from. But that being said, I think this is still a good Souls a good list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 entries in this. First things first, I think we should start off by placing the original Bonfire as like our North Star to kind of like, as a center point where we can like start to judge, the original. Archstones are first, but Bonfires were the thing that was so prolific I gave it its name. So after we do this, we don't have to go in any particular order. I think we can just kind of jump around. That being said, let's get into this. What are you guys feeling on the first Bonfire? Now, the reason that all three of the Dark Souls Bonfires are included on this list is because despite the fact that they look pretty much identical, they do function relatively differently. The first Bonfire did not allow you to teleport right away, and then even after you got the ability to teleport, you can only teleport to specific bonfires, so it was limiting in that. You can argue this two ways. You can argue that it makes the bonfire worse because there's less functionality, or you could argue that the bonfires are better implemented because this provides the most amount of tension and sense of relief whenever you do find a bonfire because of the limitations on them. We're judging this by a bunch of different criteria, but we're kind of melding it all together. So we're going to judge it on functionality, we're going to judge it on aesthetics, we're going to judge it on vibes, and we're going to judge it on gameplay implementation, which I guess is kind of functionality. You could read this two different ways. We could either read it as limits on its functionality is a benefit because it gives you a better sense of relief when you find one, or you could judge it as it is an inferior bonfire because it has less functionality. I will let chat help me determine which one is which as we get into it. But yeah, after we settle on the original bonfire being which is our North Star, we'll kind of just go through these in a relatively random order. But we also can move stuff later, so we don't have to be married to any decisions here. 1 is S tier because it's a staple. 2, it could be S tier on functionality, and 3, we call it A because it's not much different. Yeah, so that's the thing. All 3 bonfires in the original Souls games work distinctly differently, which is why they're all included on this list. Yeah, the first one limits your mobility. Bonfires in Dark Souls 2 arguably have the most functionality of any of them because you can actually use them to reset specific areas. 1, replay bosses, but 2, also have certain areas act as a new game plus or even a plus depending on how many times you reset the bonfire, which is even someone like me who doesn't really care for doing a new game plus run or replaying stuff in general was so good for grinding in Dark Souls 2 because I thought the DLC in Dark Souls 2 was complete bullshit, so I was not having any of it. So I was like, let me just power level to get through this. And so like literally if I wasn't able to reset like a very specific bonfire up to like I did it a couple times too to boost up a couple new game pluses and like really utilize that for grinding. We might have still never gotten around to beating Dark Souls 2. So like I was like, this is such a good feature, dude. Why did they not adopt this for every FromSoft game going forward? It is such a good idea. And then Dark Souls 3 maybe has the least interesting of the bonfires. They're normal. You can teleport to any bonfire, and they don't do anything like especially interesting or crazy. You use the bonfires to upgrade your Estus flask in 2 and 3. Like you burn stuff in the bonfire to upgrade your flask, but it only works at like the main bonfire anyway. That's just replacing something that an NPC does. So I don't really think that that's also in the main hub world. So it doesn't even save you a trip. So I don't really think it matters all that much, but you guys can let me know if you think it increases the value of the bonfire at all. We could argue bonfires are basically the same thing, but I think 1 should still be A just because no fast travel between. My vote is A. I think we rank on functionality first, suspense second, and overall cool factor. Okay, so we're going functionality, relief when you find one, and then the last factor is vibes. Okay. I can agree to that. Agreed. Maybe even B tier, because thinking about it, what does the first one really do? Yeah, I'm thinking B on DS1 and S on DS3, or S on DS2, A on DS3. I like that, which I just realized the image that I'm using for Dark Souls 1 Bonfire and the image I used in the tier list are different, but hey, that's fine. That's okay. I might make an argument to bump that up a little bit later, depending on where some other things fall, because I really do. One thing I do think bonfires have lost is how much of a relief it is to get to them. Like they do mean less going forward. I also don't even necessarily know if like I would want it to go back to how stressful they used to be. So yeah, I like this listing to start with, and then we're just gonna kind of go ahead and place these other 2 right now. The Dark Souls 2 bonfire goes in S tier. And I'm just going to take a second to glaze this again. Like, the Dark Souls 2 bonfires were awesome because of that feature that not only is another Souls-like never done again, I don't know any other game that adopted that. Like, that mechanic is fresh for the pickings. Liza P2, if you want to like employ this or something, Surge 3, whatever it is, Lords of the Fallen 2, 3, or however they're gonna number that mechanic fresh for the picking. The Dark Souls 3 bonfire, I like putting that in A. I don't know, I might argue to swap these 2 later on. We'll see how some other things fall. I might, maybe I'm just not the biggest fan of the Dark Souls 3 bonfire just because, like, I feel like it just didn't, there's nothing special about it. It, like, looks exactly the same as the last 2 that we had already seen, and it doesn't do anything, like, unique or cool. I think it's the least interesting one. I remember in the trailers for Dark Souls 3, they made a point to show, like, putting the sword in to light that first bonfire. So I had for years, because I only played it recently, but for years until we played it just a couple months ago, I thought that Dark Souls 3 had a mechanic where you had to manage these bonfire swords as a resource and pick and choose where you place the bonfires. Lords of the Fallen ended up having a mechanic pretty much like that, but obviously they also had like the permanent vestiges that were always there. So for years, I was like, oh my god, it's going to be so interesting to have to pick and choose where I want to place a bonfire. I didn't think there were going to be any permanent bonfires in the entire game. Turns out that was just like a cool animation when you walked in Firelink Shrine. Was not a mechanic whatsoever. So I don't know why they made such a point to put that in the trailer if it didn't matter, but very misleading, I feel like. Jump into the most recent game, the Blade Nexus in First Berserker Khazan. I like the Blade Nexus vibes. It does look cool. Lords of Fallen has a hard mode where you can only use the limited bonfire item. That's so sick. Vibes-wise, this thing is incredible. This thing is ranking high in the vibes department. You guys are gonna have to remind me, what's the functionality like here? How much can you actually do with this one? You can do pretty much everything at these, right? Like, you don't have to go back to the main hub for almost anything, do you? Like talking to vendors or whatever, but you can do all your upgrading from the Blade Nexus, right? Which I do like that. I do like being able to level up at bonfires, not having to always go back and talk to the maiden every single time. I'm of two minds of it because I do like having a maiden. I think like it adds character to the world. I like seeing the little lore drops from her, and I like that it's like it feels cool that like there's a very specific person that can level you up. But then on just a basic like convenience factor, I really like being able to level up at the bonfire. Functionality, it probably does more than most Souls games. That's true. Remind me, it was only a few months ago that I played it. I don't remember why. I don't know why my memory of this is so short. You can do everything at it, right? You can level up. You upgrade your skills. Like you can do like everything at the Blade Nexus, right? It tracks the memories, which is their upgrade path. Yeah, pretty much everything but upgrade the weapons themselves. And it's got a cool animation when you walk up to it, because it like breaks apart, right? If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, you know what? Is it the only bonfire that has like an animation to it when you walk up? Like an approaching animation? Obviously, Headstones of Awakening have their own thing, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I think it's the only one that's got like a cool animation when you walk up to it. I would ding it for only being able to teleport in level since it was a mission-based game. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Like the Blade Nexus is only good for teleporting to other Blade Nexus in that otherwise you have to like go out to the main thing and select the mission. Yeah, that was like, that's right. That was a... Yeah, that's more of a side effect of the way the game was structured, but you're right, that is still functionality that the sword itself doesn't have. We'll put in A for now. We might push this to S just because like the animation thing I think is really sick, but we'll keep it A for now. Headstones of Awakening. The coolest thing about, again, I don't know why every Souls game from the rest of the time didn't do this, but, like, these are the coolest. I think, to me, these are the coolest bonfires in any game. Like, not only does the lamp look sick, and, like, the lighting of the lamp animation is super satisfying. Like, the snap to light the lamp. Super satisfying. Like, it looks so cool. It is the most aura-heavy, like, aura-farmed-out bonfire, in my opinion. And then you got the little guys. The best part about it, you got the little guys who you can like customize with hats. You can give them custom hats. They have little top hats. They hang out around the thing. It's so cool. It also, yeah, I guess this also does have an approaching animation because like they come out when you get close to it or whatever, or when you're at the fire. And they chill with you and they hang out. But remind me, because fuck dude, it's been so long since I played. Can you teleport to any lamp from any lamp, or do you have to go back to the Nexus? I thought you have to go back to the Nexus, right? Like that's the only limitation is you can't teleport from lamp to lamp. You have to go back to the Nexus, or did they patch that? I know we just played it at the beginning of like this year or last year. Was it this year or last year? I can't remember. I know we just played it, but I cannot remember. I feel like SS do something special, different from the other bonfires. Okay, I like that. You can give them drip and leave messages. That's right. You can also leave messages. I love giving them top hats. Yeah. You got to go back to the dream. Damn, that is the only thing holding these back is you can't teleport from lamp to lamp. You got to go back to the dream. Is that enough to knock it off of S tier? Because to me, these are by far the best ones across the board with that one major limitation. S tier, okay, it's so aura farmed out, it's so dripped out that it beats the one thing holding it back. The customization alone qualifies S tier. I agree. Yeah, it's doing something that nothing else does. I can't believe they didn't continue that in future games where, again, no one else copied that. You know, obviously the skeletons wouldn't make sense in future games, but they could be anything, you know what I mean? Like Elden Ring, they could have been like little critters. You could have found a different type of little critter, you know? Giving them the top hats, it's so auraed out, snapping to light it, like the way the lamp looks, crazy. And then also when you're in the Nexus, or when you're in the Hunter's Dream, like the tombstones look cool, and I like how the different the tombstones look different depending on like what area you're going to, and some of the tombstones look great. And so to me, and we'll get into this more when we talk about the Archstones, because that's where it plays the biggest role, but I think that, obviously I just have the picture here of the lamp, but if the bonfire looks different in the hub environment, we have to like consider that part of it too. So we're judging this based off of the lamp, but also we gotta judge it based off the tombstones as well. In the tombstones, again, just add more aura farming. So like I love these lamps so much. I cannot believe they never patched it to let you just teleport like from lamp to lamp. In 2029, when we finally get the Bloodborne remake or whatever or whatever it's going to be by then, maybe they'll fix it. All right, next we have the Medbays. Now, the coolest thing about the Medbay is the song that plays. It's the only one that gives you a song. It's the only one that gives you like a tune. It's such a comforting tune too. You know, you're safe. You start hearing it you start hearing it before you even get to it, right? Like you start hearing it from like down the hall, and then like once you hear like the melody playing like softly in the distance, you know it's safety time. Or it's like right around the corner. Sometimes it even helps you find it. Am I misremembering it, or that's how that works, right? Again, we didn't play any of these games that long ago. I don't know why I'm having amnesia. I think it's because we played so many games on stream. It's hard to keep track. A bonfire with its own theme song. Yeah, Zerud, am I remembering this properly? That's how it works. Yes, okay. Functionality-wise, it's damn good too. I think it's the only bonfire that allows you to upgrade your weapons. That's true. The only thing it doesn't have is it like doesn't look that cool, you know what I mean? Like it's not like it's just like a thing. It's just like a thing you lay down on. There's not like any like crazy LEDs or anything, but I think the song is up for it. I think we put an S tier just for like the song and like the functionality of the Medbay, kind of going back to that like sense of relief, like hearing that tune. The aura comes from the song alone. That's true. What it lacks in visual aura, it makes up for in audio aura. I'm thinking we put this in S. There's also how you manage your equipment, implants, and cosmetic gear. That's true. Yeah, it was an all-in-one. Kind of also doubled as your hub. Like the Medbays also were kind of the hubs in a way, because that's also where the NPCs met up and stuff. So it kind of ran double duty. Good S based on functionality alone, definitely one of the best ones. Okay, but I like that rule that the S tier has to do something that none of the others do that stands out, or be the first one to do it. I don't know if anything else is hidden S tier, but we'll see. The moon snail shell. I love how jolly it is. Like it's purple. You know, I like how he runs into the snail shell. I don't know. I'm thinking B for it though. It's nice. I don't think there's any like bad things about it, but it also doesn't like do anything crazy different. I think in a room full of heavy contenders, it doesn't like stand out too much. I don't know. I think that's B. C. Ooh, C. Damn. Okay, wait. What's the logic for on C? Just because it doesn't really do anything different, and like it's one of the more recent games too, so the more new the game is, the less it can get away with not really doing anything different. Is that the logic here? I don't think I ever yearned for the next Moonshale. Snail suspense was very high. That's true. Functionality-wise, it only lets you level up really and teleport, which is basically as it gets. That's true, yeah. They relegated most of the stuff to the hub, which will help it in the hub department, but it does vastly limit its bonfire potential. Sculptor's Idol. I don't know if this is controversial or not. I don't like the Sculptor's Idol. I think it's not I don't think it looks that interesting. Even the blue flame that lights, for whatever reason, I just like thought this was like a big miss, especially because of how well the bonfires are in like all the other From games. I just thought it was like a really boring design. Doesn't the Sculptor Idol have the most functionality of all FromSoftware games? I think it does though. I think functionality department though, it gets a lot of points. I mean, like, can you do anything from any of the idols? I think A tier only because nothing special. It's not doing anything super different. Can you refight the bosses? Like, can you access, like, the boss rush from any of the Sculptor's idols, or do you have to go back to the main one? Yeah, you can do that from any idol. Okay. You can do everything from the idol except upgrade your trick arm, right? So this kind of fixes the thing I was just talking about, where it's like, this game doesn't have a maiden. This acts as, like, your maiden and your bonfire, and then you can cure dragon rot for all NPCs. So yeah, I think we put this in A because it has, like, arguably some of the most functionality. but it loses aura points. Am I an outlier here? Do you guys like the look of the Sculptor's Idol? So it's at least going in A. It is boring looking. Okay, cool. So yeah, it loses aura points, so it's not going in S tier. Site of Grace. Maybe this is another controversial one. I didn't like the Sites of Grace that much. I don't think they look that interesting. It's just like a little wispy light over some dust. I think it looks even less interesting than the Sculptor's Idol. I thought it was the least interesting one they ever did. And maybe this is a positive, but C tier. Okay, yeah, I'm there. Maybe this is another positive, but I think there's I think this is a negative. I think there's too many of them. You are tripping over Sites of Grace. They become so trivial. Functionality wise, they are incredible. That's true, because you don't have to go back to the because you can level up at any of them, right? You don't have to go back to the round table hold. Yeah, maybe we bump it to B then, just because of how much functionality you have each one. I think we should bump it to B just because of how much functionality, but they do look lame as fuck. Least dripped out of any of them. Also, you just trip over these things. They are way too common. They went way too silly with it. Like, they're just like, there's, I don't know, maybe other people don't feel this way, but I think that they could have removed like a third of the Sites of Grace and it would have been fine. I don't know if that's a common opinion or not. Absolutely zero suspense. Yeah, zero suspense. It had the opposite thing. Instead of like, oh, thank God, it was like another one. Okay. Lies of P's Stargazers. I really like the way the Stargazers work. Functionality wise, it's not doing anything too crazy. You have to go back to the main Stargazer to do just about everything. You eventually can level up from any Stargazer, right? Spence and look are so bad, the Grace deserves a C. Okay, you know what? We're gonna downgrade, because I also just hate the way they look. We'll downgrade this to a C for now. Maybe I'll reconsider this. We are kind of, going back and forth on how much functionality trumps aura, because at first we were like functionality first, then aura, then suspense or whatever, then suspense, then aura, and now we're just like, nah, dude, the aura meter is so low it downgrades the other one. But hey, it's our list. We can do what we want. The aura, there is so much of a aura depletion. There's so much of an aura deficit for the Sites of Grace that I think it overrides how functional they are. I think you guys are right. Sadly, I think SVB, functionality wise, it's terrible till basically the end of the game. Yeah, because you don't get the ability to upgrade to level up at any Stargazer until the end of the game, right? B is the best I can do. I like the way they look, but honestly, we might even drop this to, I don't know, should we drop this to C? I like the way the Stargazers look, but yeah, like functionality wise, they are pretty low, but I always like did feel relief when I ran into them. Like the suspense of the Stargazer I think is pretty high. I think B is good. Are we cool if Stargazer's at B, or most of the game just checkpoints and teleports still in the game? Placement did create a lot of suspense. Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm gonna give the Stargazers points for this as well. I really like how when you're teleporting, it lets you know if there, like, it gives you an icon if there is a side quest that needs to be completed at a specific Stargazer. I'm going to put that in I'm going to credit the Stargazers with that, because it is a functionality of the Stargazer when it's got the best teleporting in any of the games, which I think is enough to bump it to B as well. Technically has animation reactivated too. That's right, it does. Yeah, it's got a cool rebuilding animation. High B. A high B. You know what? Let's put that over. Right, okay, because I forgot the placement also matters. Let's go back to the S tier really quick and make sure we got all these in the right places. So, do we like this order for the S tier? Because this has the most functionality, this has the most aura, and this has the most, like, unique aesthetic. I kind of like this order. I would be fine if moving this over here, but if the limited functionality keeps it right there, I'm cool with that. I think S tier is correct order. Okay, what about the A order? I want to put Dark Souls 3 at the bottom of the A's, to be honest. And then keep Blade Nexus 1, Sculptor's Idol 2, and then Dark Souls 3 Bonfires at number 3. A's good with that move? Okay. B, Stargazers, then Dark Souls 1 Bonfire. I think that's fine. I think I'll go for that. Okay, cool. The Vestiges. We gotta determine the way that we're grading the Vestige here. Are we just grading the Vestiges based off of the permanent ones, or are we also taking into account that you can create your own Vestige with a limited resource? I think it should expand to, like, the ones that you create yourself too. I think that's part of the Vestige system. I'm good at putting Vestiges in S. Each Vestige has its own appearance and lore. That's true. They do all look unique. Yes, they all have their own piece of lore. I think the ability to create your own is such a... And that's something that no one else does. Suspense is always high of them too. That's true. It does. Yeah. It always feels really good. I love the stress of, like, not knowing if you should use the seed or not. You don't know how close the next permanent vestige is. I think that raises the suspense so much for them. I think that it is a unique mechanic that nobody else does. I don't know why more people haven't copied it. I mean, I guess only because it only came out 2 years ago, but you can do you can do a lot from it too, right? Like, you can do a lot from each vestige. I'd argue that once you create, the ones you create count, and it should be an S. Okay, suspension incredibly high. Really, it's just level and teleport? Okay, alright, yeah. But it also, if you're stuck in the upside down, it also, like, gets you out of the upside down. But I guess that's kind of like resting. Now the question is where. I honestly, like, I'd be okay making this the number 1. I think maybe the functionality limits it, so maybe it should be number 2. And as much as I love the little guys with top hats, I think the fact that each of them are unique and you can create your own, they are like the most innovative of any of these. But I do love the Bloodborne lamps. I don't know, where are we putting this? Number 1 spot, number 2 spot, or number 3? 2 is fair? Okay. Damn, dude, Bloodborne lamps. The top hats could not save you. That's an S tier bonfire right there. Yeah, I completely forgot that they all look different too. That's a great point. If we were including the vestiges from Lords of the Fallen 1, I would put in like C tier. Like, they're just like, they're so uninteresting. They're just like floating crystals. They have a lot of functionality, but like I would put them pretty low. The original one, actually, the last one we're covering here is the original one, the Archstones. The only D tier. Okay, hold on now. Let's wait a second. I want to lay out all the facts here before we make our judgment. So there's a lot going against it on the surface. On the surface, a lot going against Archstones. They are the most uncommon one. You only get an Archstone after defeating a boss, but that does up the suspense and value of them exponentially, I think. With the Demon Souls remake, you can now travel to any Archstone from any Archstone, so you don't have to go back to the Nexus anymore. Outside of that, they don't have a whole lot of functionality, which is true. They're missing a lot in the functionality department. I tried so hard to find an image of the Archstone after you beat a boss, and I literally couldn't. But it's just like a sword and a rock. They don't look that interesting. But the Archstones in the Nexus all have a unique look, and they are really cool. So, you know, it loses aura points in the level, but it gains aura points in the Nexus. That being said, the rank of the Archstones, I think, is riding entirely on how much we want to value, like, the suspense and value of each one of them, because it loses points in almost every other category. The suspense is borderline frustration. That's true. C because no functionality and minimal drip, but the granddaddy of suspense. I like that. Okay. Oh, we don't have anything in D tier. I will acquiesce. We can throw in D just because we don't have anything in D tier. But I would actually, like, love another game like Demon Souls that adopted the Archstone model of, like, them being your only checkpoints. I think, like, that was such a great suspense that they've never tried to do again. But as an actual bonfire, it isn't doing much. I love you, Archstones, but fair is fair. It was the OG, and we don't call the checkpoints Archstones in every game. That's true. Yeah, it wasn't even prolific enough to, like, coin the name. So it did leave some cool level design. It did. I still think Demon Souls has, like, the best level design in any FromSoft game. But also, if we didn't put it in D, we wouldn't have anything in D, and the chart wouldn't look as good. So now we have this nice stair-stepping. 4 of them made the S tier. We have the most things in S tier, but I think they're all well-deserved. And realistically, there's no, like, bad Archstones, you know, or there's no bad bonfires. I like all of them. I'm happy with this list.